Hey guys, this is Down and Dirty Modding, and this is the second video in our cable sleeving series, the one where we actually sleeve a cable. So let's get started with cable sleeving, the sleevening. I've got me just a random wire right here. We're going to start first by stripping the end, and only one end. Once we get that stripped, we're going to put a pin on it. Now, we need to kind of look at these ATX pins. Let me get this up here, I think, where you can see it. Now, there's a few different parts. Basically, this front part is the barrel. Then there are two tabs on the back, or actually four, I guess, two sets of tabs. The back one is the crimp that actually holds on to the insulation of the wire. And this next one holds on to the wire itself. The one that holds on to the wire is basically for a good electrical connection. And the one that holds on to the insulation is to keep the wire from pulling out. It's the one that's doing the heavy lifting. So what we're going to do is put it in our crimper. And you just want to get the tabs for crimping in the crimper. And these can go either way, doesn't matter, kind of depends on what hand you are. I like to give it 2 clicks. What that does is that kind of rounds that pin up a little bit so the wire slips in easier, and also it now holds it. So if I need to put my crimpers down and do something else, which I will later, it doesn't go anywhere, it stays where it's at. I can grab the crimpers again, keep right on going. So we've got 2 clicks. We've opened up those wings a little bit. We're going to go ahead and slip our wire in. And what you'll do is you'll slip it in and you'll feel a bit of resistance in there once that insulation hits that second set of crimps. And then you crimp it down. You don't want to crimp. You don't want to get your insulation. Sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up. You don't want to get your insulation in on this set of wings that holds the wire. You just want to get it in there. So what you're going to do is you insert it in and you'll feel it when it rubs up against the second set of tabs. So that's good crimp. And you'll notice too, this is just how I do it, but it really gives me a lot of consistency in all my wires. Whenever I'm crimping a wire, I always have that bend of the wire go under the crimper. So every time I crimp, no matter what I'm doing, it always bends down. And what that does is that makes sure that every wire that I do has the same, the cable's bending the same way. Now, it may not be the right way. I may want to bend this the other way when I plug it in, when it's in a connector, and it may be totally against what the wire is set up to do. But what this does is it keeps all my wires pointed the same way. You know, if you've got a 24 pin and you've got 24 wires, 23 wires in it, having all of them bend the same way and not twisting because you've got the other end as well, they're all facing the same way. That allows you to bend this wire instead of having to twist a wire. And it makes moving them around and getting them kind of trained into the spot you want them to be a whole lot easier. So I always do that. That way everyone's the same. And I'm not fighting 20 wires running different random directions. So, may not be the most important thing, but to me it makes the job in the end a whole lot easier. So we've got our terminal on. I'm going to set our crimpers to the side. And we are going to sleeve. Now we're using our cheapy gray sleeving, which is actually still pretty good. It does the job. And the first thing we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and mess this up a little bit. And free this end. Now I want to show you something as well. Now I'm going to trim this back to where I can do something with it. Now you'll see the end is, hopefully it's focusing, is nice and frayed. And if you come in here and try to just snip off that fray, it just gets worse. You know, everything behind it spreads. So you want to come back a 1/2 inch and cut it back there. So we're going to cut it off there. And then we're going to take our lighter. And we're just going to hold it, just the tip of it to the flame, just to barely melt this end. and get all these strands kind of melted together. You don't want to go crazy with it and get it all on fire and melting back. You just want to kind of melt that tip just a bit so these things don't fray out on their own. So now that we've done that, and I think I may have done a little too good of a job, but we'll see. We're going to slide this onto our wire. And there we go. You'll see too that when I slid it on there, this actually, one little couple pieces broke apart. But that's fine. The main deal is to keep all this from fraying. If it's in a couple different pieces, as long as it's not scattering all over the place, we're okay. So slide her on, and we're just going to start sliding our wire into our sleeve. You'll notice there's a point where it doesn't go any further. You can't force it. There's too much friction in this section of sleeving with the wire for it to actually go on any further. Then what we have to do is inch this sleeve on. Now we're going to do that by taking this hand and thumb and forefinger holding the sleeve and the wire. This hand, you're going to kind of gently grab the sleeve and push it together, and you're going to bunch it up. You bunch it up until you can grab the wire in through the sleeve with your other thumb and forefinger. So taking this hand, pushing and grabbing, then we're going to let it go with this hand. And you'll see how we just got like a 1/2 inch of sleeving on there. And this is a process that you're going to have to do all the time. And you kind of get used to it. You kind of develop a rhythm normally. This sleeve is really good for putting it on because it bunches up real easy. And you just work it back and forth and inch it on. And pull some more off. Normally I have my sleeve tied down with a screw or something so I can just kind of yank on it and get it going. But I've got it floating around loose right now. Every now and then you'll notice that it's a little harder to push on. It wants to push back. And what you do then is you just run your fingers down it, and you'll basically stretch that bit of sleeve out and expand it down the line. So we're going to keep this going. Maybe I'll do a little more. Till we get our sleeve down to the terminal we put on. I guess I should call that a terminal, not a pin, but whatever. So now we're down. Our sleeve is down to our pin. You can see I've got some extra bunched up here. And we want to bring this extra up, and we just want to pop the sleeve over those 2 sets of crimp wings. Oh, that's a hard one for me to say. Just over those, but not onto the barrel. You can see right there's the first set, right there's the second set, and there's the barrel. We're right up to that edge. That's where you want the sleeve to. And then we're going to grab it. And I did pull it back a hair, and that's fine. The main thing that we want to do is have this sleeve go over that set of crimp wings for the insulation. If it gets past that, it can pretty much stop anywhere on that next set and be fine. Because what we're going to do is we're going to melt this end and basically pinch it in, and then it won't be able to jump back over that back set that grabs onto the insulation. So I'm gonna grab this in and kind of work the extra out of our line here. I think my problem is at work in plumbing we use crimp rings all the time for plumbing, for our water lines. And every time I want to say crimp wing, I'm trying to say crimp ring. It's kind of weird. That's how it works. So we've pulled our extra out. Now we're going to take our little short pieces of, oh God, brain fart, heat shrink, and we're going to slide it on, and we're going to line it up with the end of our sleeve. So right there, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our lighter, and just over this first bit, let me grab my other pen, I can kind of show you a comparison. Just over where those crimp wings are, that's where we want to apply heat. You don't want to get heat further back because that's going to be a visible sleeve. So just over this little tip, we're going to not blind you with the lighter. We're going to actually get that really hot enough to melt the plastic. And then you pinch it down, and this will be hot, and you're going to burn your fingers. Side note, if you have a thumbprint reader on your phone, you may want to turn that off for about a week because your phone won't recognize your thumbprint anymore. That's what I'm dealing with right now. So we've melted that, pinched it down, and what that's done is kind of form that plastic to those crimps. So we're going to take our wire cutters, we're going to cut our insulation, and basically just a little cut, and then you can tear the rest of it off. Now if you do this really quick after you actually melt it, the insulation comes off a whole lot easier. It works a lot easier when it's warm. I didn't quite get all of it, and this is where we're going to take our cutters and get a little extra insulation off of it. But that came out really well. You can see it's melted around those terminals, or around those crimps, and basically that seats it. It can't pull back over them, so this sleeve can't get pulled back off. So now that we've got that one, we're going to pull any extra sleeve down and get it nice and tight to our wire, and we're going to drag our fingers along till we find the end. We're going to come here and cut our sleeving off at the end of the wire. You can usually, this one's dark enough I can tell where it is, but a lot of times you can feel it where the wire ends, and you just want to cut right at the end of the wire and cut your sleeve off. So there's our wire right inside the end. Now this is where I differ with most people. Most people would measure out their wire, then figure out how much sleeve they need, measure out their sleeve, and then put it all together. I don't like that because measuring sleeve is kind of a guessing game. The distance of a piece of sleeve all depends on how tightly you pull it. So if you add a little extra pressure while you're trying to straighten it out to get it measured, it's actually going to wind up being shorter than what you want. So that's why I make sure it's on the wire. It's not going to change any dimensions on this as far as the diameter. So when I cut that, that's exactly where I'm going to want it. We are going to do our little lighter trick again and just barely melt this to keep it from fraying on us. And then we're going to push it back a little bit, and now we have our wire again. And this will work its way back to the same spot that it was. So, but this lets us put our next terminal on. So we're going to strip that edge, that end, and we're going to get our next terminal ready, if I remember what I did with it. And once again, 2 clicks. I'm setting it down because I want to pull the sleeve back so it's not in the way of the crimping tool. So this thing holding the crimping tool, or holding the terminal, is really handy. Pull it back, give me some wire to work with so I'm not getting the sleeving in the way. Once again, you can see my bend is going down and underneath the underneath the crimpers. I'll slide it in till I feel that set of wings where that grab the wire, and go ahead and give it a crimp. Once again, another nice crimp. Got the wire in the wire spot and the insulation in the insulation spot. So we're gonna work our insulation back, and I'm probably going to pull it back here. If we pull all this back up, that insulation is going to spring back to exactly where the wire ends. Maybe even a little bit short. Short would be good because we definitely don't want it on the barrel of the terminal. But it getting to right where the wings grab the wire is exactly where we want, and you might lose a little bit of distance because going over that set of back wings will actually kind of shorten the wire a little bit, but we're a little just a hair long. But right there is good. So that's what we want. We're going to go back with some heat shrink. And once again, line it up with the end of our sleeve. And then melt that end. Pinch that down and then cut our heat shrink. And see, that comes off so much easier when it's warm. And you can see our sleeve is nice, melted right around there. It's not going to be going anywhere. So we've now got a sleeve cable. Keep going with those, and after a while you've got a whole set. I guess next video will be actually setting up this workspace, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm missing that I would normally have. As far as actually building a set of cables right. So next time we'll go over setting up a workspace for doing this, and also ways to measure out the wires and stuff inside of our case to make sure we've got enough give and everything to actually hook things up. So until next time, see y'all later.